Alright.
Okay, I'd like to open the meeting for the Emery Board of Education, and I'll call it to order, and we're in the open session right now, and we have one action item. Dr. Durfler will take it.
Okay, well, the action item is the community survey. This is the 15th draft, so we have gone through many revisions. Becky in the district office here, Tracy Hendrickson is always our resident editor. Andy has chimed in some, and obviously school perception staff, who's got the corner on expertise in this area, has been chiming in as well. So there are not really a tremendous amount of changes that have occurred since the last time you saw this. I know that it has been sent to you. I could either run through it from beginning to end, or you could simply point to where you wanted to talk, whatever you feel is best in your mind. There are concerns certainly, or there are things you want to highlight certainly. What's your preference?
I did have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
On the back, it says, please complete the survey before November 8th.
Yes.
And I know that's different than on the original timeline that we
It
had
is.
put out. And so if the survey results aren't back till November 8th, will we still get to see the survey results on the 15th of November?
Yeah, yes, November 8th is the deadline to complete the survey. You get results the next day. The 9th, you'll have them the 9th, and we meet on the 15th.
Okay,
So yes, you'll have
but
them.
they won't be discussed, because here at the original plan, it said they would be discussed on October 25th and October
Yep, we won't
27th.
have that. We have a community meeting on the calendar for the 18th, which I haven't even communicated with you yet. That they'll have an opportunity to see them too and talk about them after you've seen them and talked about them a couple days prior.
That's Thursday,
Yep.
Thursday?
Yep, and certainly people can come to the meeting and see it firsthand on the 15th if they want to. I'm as curious as anyone as to how we fare, so.
Sure. Sounds great.
Well, I think if we could just maybe just briefly run
Sure,
through as long
absolutely.
as, yeah.
Well, the first page is in the box is the area that people need to focus. You go to the survey website and then you'll have an entry code, a survey code, if you want more than one code, as in 2 people in one household that are interested in providing feedback, you simply request a second code and you get a second code, and then you can both chime in. It's my estimation, and it always has been, the higher number of people that respond, the more valid the results become, so hopefully everybody responds, and then we'll know how people feel. So that's really the emphasis on the first page, and again, the deadline of November 8th. On the second page, you will see that the school district of Amory, it's depicted here, has outperformed the state in the area of reading and math. Those are the state assessment areas, and they have done so for decades. So this is a depiction of that. So we're doing well academically is the nature of that graph or that chart. Chart B and chart C depict our mill rate over time. The narrative right above it, Aaron and I talked today a little bit when we tweaked the part in bold where it says for the last 7 years, the mill rate, which is used to calculate the school's portion of property tax, has dropped. And then we just created another sentence out of that first one long sentence, and then it says, this decline of 35% has saved the taxpayers a total of $420 for each $100,000 of property tax. So just to make it more clear, that was a change that was made since you saw this last.
Good.
Chart B shows our mill rate through the 2020-2021 school year. We don't have a for sure mill rate for 21-22. We don't have that until our third Friday count is official, which is actually tomorrow. So by the time we get out to next community meetings, we'll know exactly what that is. It'll be 7.8 something or 7.9 something, somewhere around there. And then a comparison to the Middle Border Conference, reflecting accurately our conference, Altoona in and New Richmond out. They basically finished third either way, so it really didn't change a whole lot, just the name changed. And it shows, again, a picture of declining mill rate in chart B, and then in chart C, the lowest in the conference, and actually one of the top 10% lowest in all of the state. Remember, mill rate is your rate of taxation as a taxpayer, so that's a good thing. The third page, facility background, is I've been summarized really into 3 bullet points and changed from Krauss-Anderson LHB speak to ordinary citizen speak, and school perceptions did that. They're not necessarily always familiar with what HVAC and deferred maintenance and digital control, they don't folks don't live that world, I don't live that world, so they're changing it to more understood language. The three big categories ultimately are the building and grounds need improvements and updates, classrooms and labs are outdated, and lastly, support areas need to be improved. So those are the three big categories, and then there are specifics underneath each of those that have been wordsmithed out numerous times. That brings us to the paragraph underneath the three main bulleted points. And it notes there, and we brought this up at our last community meeting here recently, that the decision ultimately of this board, and you certainly can change this if you want to this evening, has been not to build a new high school based on the affordability of doing so. A high school is approximately 60 to 80 million, and that would increase one's mill rate significantly. We have a high school that in many cases is really, really nice. The gym is probably one of the best in the area. The auditorium is heavily used and does a nice job. We've got a brand new family and consumer ed room. We've got walls in that building that it would be very difficult to replicate in certain areas. But you've also got some pretty serious issues with your mechanical, your HVAC, et cetera, et cetera. So to not build a new high school was the sentiment. Is that still the agreed upon sentiment here? Because that's what it says in the survey, and I certainly don't want to speak for you.
In my opinion, it is, yeah.
Okay? So at the community meetings, there also wasn't a chorus there for those who were in attendance of build a new high school, build a new high school. That's not what at all was said, and I explicitly asked. So the first question is, would you support the school district of Amory pursuing a referendum to fund the issues identified above? This is sort of like the gate key kind of question. Yes, no, not sure. So we proceed forward. Go ahead.
On that question, do we think that it's clear to everybody that we're asking, do you support, a referendum to make these updates or improvements and not to make or build a new high school?
I think it is if they read the paragraph right above it. But we can make it more explicit if you wanted us to. I think the narrative that's been out there through community meetings, through board meetings, and through free press is, we've never talked about a new high school. We've only talked about fixing the stuff that needs to be fixed. So I'd be surprised if people construe that as new high school.
I think that's certainly our understanding, and most people that have been involved, I guess. But I guess I just don't want people to get confused.
Maybe you wanna just put in bold, the Board of Education decided that a new high school is not a realistic option.
So bold that,
Yeah,
that
that's what I'm
last
saying.
clause,
Something like
if
that,
you will.
yeah.
The last set,
That last.
We can do that.
Or we could even change the question a little bit and said, would you support the school district of Amory pursuing a referendum to fund the remodeling issues identified above? Instead of, so that in case people didn't read
Yeah.
anything above the
Well,
question,
And I could see that happening.
I can
Oh,
too.
yeah, people don't.
Yeah.
Right? I was a teacher, you were a teacher. We see what kids do when they read a question, right, with the whole thing says
Or
read
not
the
read the
direction,
question.
and then, yeah, we know how it works. So you're in a hurry and like, oh geez, it's November 8th today and I'm gonna build, I don't know, I'm not gonna build a new high school. So maybe if we could change that question just a little bit.
I'll work with school perceptions. I get hesitant to change the questions because school perception wrote the questions. So I will make sure that they understand your position and see what they have to say.
Sure,
And if you would rely on their best expertise, we could certainly lean on them. They would know a lot better than us.
sure.
They've been doing it for 20 years or more. So, all right.
I think that's a good
Yeah.
point, though, Dan.
It is.
Maybe just a point to, either we make, highlight or bold a sentence up above, or just,
If we're gonna ask, we wanna be clear.
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And I'm thinking, remodeling, I feel like maybe we could add a word there, but I don't know if remodeling is the right word, cause some people are like, what, they're just remodeling? I don't know, you know what I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it
like,
sounds
these
like
are
we're
maintenance
updating
issues.
For no reason.
Maybe
Yeah, I
like
guess I didn't mean
remodeling a
remodeling
home.
but you understand what I mean,
A
the
maintenance issue,
upgrades,
or I don't know,
Home
something.
improvements, maintenance
Updating
issues.
maintenance.
whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll work with school perceptions and see what they have to say. So the recommended plan looks very similar to the previous page. The recommended plan is heavy high school, obviously. You're looking at 26 of the 35 million is high school stuff. And that number could be slightly up or slightly down in regards to the 26, but it's largely high school. Elementary school's got some stuff, middle school's got some stuff, intermediate not so much. But high school, you're talking major systems upgrades. When you're talking replace the major building systems to improve indoor air quality and energy efficiency, that's the electrical at the high school, which is just 10 million alone. So that's where your price tag gets big fast there. When you're talking about replacing the through wall flashing all the way around the high school, that's $4 million, that's where it gets big. I mean, it's just not cheap stuff. So the recommended plan is to do each and every one of those items, upgrade and remodel classrooms and labs, renovate restrooms, band rooms to be ADA compliant. Let me talk about that just for a moment. When you get above a certain price tag on a building upgrade, as soon as you get past a tipping point in the law, you must then update all of your ADA stuff. Because the high school has not been ADA compliant forever. But now that you're doing an upgrade potentially, then you have to target those things too. That's just the law. So that's where the restrooms come in, and they're not ADA compliant. So we would target that too because the law says we have to. Upgrade safety and security features, including sprinklers, which again, you have to when you upgrade the building. Replace major building systems, install a replacement generator, improve air circulation and electrical, replace floors, walls, doors, windows as needed, replace roof and brick, and repair parking lots and sidewalks. Yes, the list is only 10 long, but there aren't any small items on the list, unfortunately, and we knew that. In addition to that, there is a variety of things underneath that target other projects in other schools, but nothing that compares to the needs of the high school. So updating heating, ventilation, and HVAC where it's needed. We certainly don't need that at the elementary, we just did it. Replace floors, doors, walls, lights, ceilings, cabinetry, and windows where it's not yet been updated, because some has been. Replace external doors at the middle school to improve safety, improve elementary school libraries, simply too small a space to be usable. Update and refinish gym floors at middle and intermediate, replace roof sections in intermediate and elementary, repair external brickwork at the intermediate and middle, and lastly, repair and replace the parking lot at the intermediate school. So that gives you your grand total sum of 35 million. Funding support, this is a depiction of the extension of the previous graph, those charts B and chart C. It states here, in essence, voter approval of the recommended plan at 35 million increases your mill rate by 1.49, and that would provide you a new mill rate, but it would still be less than it was in 2018-19 and every year prior. So you're looking at moving us back to approximately state average, and approximately where we were at, 4 years ago, but not to where we were 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. We don't know exactly where it will be because we don't know the mill rate presently for this year. It will be 1.49 above whatever we have as an endpoint this year, which will be again 7.8 or 7.9. So you could rest assured it'll be somewhere around 9.2 to 9.5, somewhere in there. So the question then, this is the first of the questions where you're really getting at how people feel is, would you support a $35 million referendum to fund the recommended plan as described on the previous page? Running from definitely yes through definitely no, and then your price points are underneath there. The only thing that's subject to change are your interest rates. We would never know that this far in advance. Right now, they're at 2.5. Will they be at 2.5 then? I don't have any idea. So Baird always does a conservative estimate at 3.25 to 3.5. That would be very conservative right now. That would be hundreds of thousands of dollars conservative. So that's the first question. Any questions about the first question?
Do you want to put anything in there about the length of the loan?
Well, we haven't determined any of the terms of that yet. I think that will be getting too far into the weeds at this early point. You can't go any longer than 20 years, but we haven't determined what that will look like quite yet. So I think it'd be a little early in the game for that. But we will certainly be transparent about all of that information when that information is settled. That's the nature of us doing what we're doing right now, is to be entirely transparent every step of the way. And we'll continue to do so.
That might be,
If we
I
can lock in
don't
at
mean,
historic lows, I don't know why we wouldn't go as long as we could, or go up to 20 years. I mean, if we can borrow it.
If they're gonna be 2.5, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when she said the other night that when she first began, they were financing school projects at 8 and 9%, I nearly fell out of my chair. I mean, I don't even know what you'd even do it at that point. I I mean, that's 10, 15, $20 million difference when you got 8, 9%. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But hopefully we don't have to deal with that. As a society, hopefully we don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. I'm just, you know, it's kind of a good point, though. I'm wondering if we should even put in a sentence, though, that says, you know, although the terms will still need to be worked out, this referendum mill rate or however, you know, could be no longer than 20 years. I don't know.
I think we wanna be shy of adding too much detail. I wouldn't wanna confuse anybody. I think the question has right now, I think has sufficient detail to answer the question knowledgeably. And when we know more, we'll share more.
Yeah, I think this is just a survey to get an idea of where we stand about going to the referendum, and then if this comes back that people support it, then there's the further process then that goes along with the more meetings, the more details, the more, before it actually goes to the vote in April.
Right.
Correct?
So then
'Cause once
that
you
would
get
take
to-
time.
Now and then, I mean, there's gonna be so many, you know, presentations
Yeah.
and questions.
Absolutely, throughout the
and
spring, there will be
Yeah.
February, March, and April will be all
Where
of that.
those questions can be answered.
Yeah,
And right now, there is no answer, so that would be my answer, right now, there is none. But we would have that answer once we start to finalize this process.
Yeah.
But we have to see how people feel first. The next page, the second to last page, is the additional projects page. There's been some verbiage change here, I don't wanna belabor the point by reading to you, but I'm going to. The district and community are experiencing growing demand for early childhood services and childcare. For instance, at the elementary school, this is as of last week, the wait list for childcare to get into Clubhouse is about 40 deep. There are people that are actually declaring that they'd like 2 spots for their unborn twins 8 months in advance. So Nina thinks that she's probably the very first person that found out that those twins are gonna be born after mom found out they were gonna be born. So she has got very early information. Families unable to receive these services in Amory may enroll their children in other districts, which could result in a significant drop in school enrollment. We want people to be here. Current services could be expanded or relocated to reduce the waiting list and free up needed classroom space at the elementary school. In addition to providing early childhood services and childcare, this center would also provide for before and after school care for school-aged children. It would be designed with age-appropriate learning and active play stations, as well as space to host community education classes. It's a standalone building. The most obvious location on school campus would be between the elementary and the bus garage, and the approximate price tag at this point in time would be $7 million. Depending on what you want it to be, it could be $2 million, it could be $12 million. It all depends on what that building ends up being. This is a meaty part of the curve, price tag of $7 million, according to Cross Anderson and LHB, and they would know, they've been doing it for a long time. So that is the question, or the narrative. The question is, would you support expanding a referendum to build an early childhood center? Approval would result in an additional annual tax increase of $30 a year, $2.50 per month for every $100,000 of property value. And again, your answers, your options for answer are from definitely yes through definitely no. Again, this is an additional project. The number one goal is to address the deferred maintenance. This is simply us asking, in addition to that, is this something that you want us to address? And we want everyone to respond however they see fit and see where we stand. Questions or thoughts, comments about the Early Childhood Center? Question.
When and if we go to referendum, would this be a separate question? Like, would we?
That's up to you. That would happen in December if we choose to do that as a separate question. If it's not a separate question, if there's an interest in a child care center and it's not a high interest at $7 million, perhaps it becomes part of the $35 million you just do in addition to the elementary, so for say $1 million or $2 million. Because a standalone building is where your price tag increases. You have separate water, you have separate heat, you have separate staff, you have separate food service, you have separate everything. Separate parking, separate entrance. That's where you end up with your price tag increasing. Would it be fantastic? Yeah, it absolutely would be fantastic. But with fantastic comes a price tag, certainly.
I think the survey should let people speak for themselves, but I know having an additional building is a large concern for a lot of taxpayers. I've been in this community for a long time and have heard that already that we have 4 buildings and that it's a concern with 4 buildings already, so, but obviously this will be the telltale, you know, whatever happens, and then we'd have to rework something if we decided to make that a priority for the
Again,
other.
we think we say the same thing, everyone please respond.
Yep.
Tell us how you feel, and then we can make a good decision. So the timeline, to speak to your point, Aaron, is after we get results and we talk at the November 15th meeting, the November 18th with the community, the go, no-go for a referendum has to happen for sure in January, but it's on the schedule right now for December. If you wanted to table it, you could still successfully legally do it in January. And Lisa Boyson from Baird Financial is the one that helps us write that referendum question, so we do it under the eyes of the law in an accurate and correct way. But it could be one question, it can be 2 questions, you can't ask any more than 2 questions in any given calendar year. So this is a question that we want people to answer and see how they feel. Any other thoughts about Early Childhood Center? Okay, the last additional project is the swimming pool. A swimming pool could be added to the Amory School campus for approximately $12.5 million. To accomplish this, the district would need to create partnerships with local organizations. The pool would be available year-round for both school and community use and be available for physical therapy, swim lessons, exercise classes, and general recreation/fitness. Please note, in addition to the construction cost at $12.5 million, these partnerships would need to secure approximately $250,000 each year to heat, clean, maintain, and supervise the pool. That's the trick with pools. The installation is one cost. The paying for it as we move forward is another cost, and that is not a 1-year cost, that's an each and every year cost. So the question reads, would you support the district exploring partnerships over the next year to build a swimming pool? Yes, no, we're undecided. So the assumption here from this question is that we are simply asking the public, would you be interested in us exploring partnerships? And that could be with anyone in Amory or outside of Amory, whether it be Polk County or beyond. There are all sorts of folks that are options. We're simply one of those entities that would perhaps weigh in on this pool. But explicitly I want to say, if we have the question written on the survey like this, we are not asking on the referendum, if that's what you choose to do, in April of 2022, a question about the swimming pool. There is no swimming pool question. It would just be about deferred maintenance and potentially about childcare. The swimming pool question would not be on there. I've had 3 conversations with 3 members of the community, all that have been heavily involved in the Facebook group that is talking about pool, and all 3 have said to me that it's not something that we think we can get done by April anyway, so that's okay if we wait. But can we ask the question about partnerships? Absolutely. So when this is done, I've told them, we'll send you this question. You can put that right on Facebook so people know exactly what they're gonna be asked. There'll be no surprises when we get this at the end of October. So they wanna partner with us. Who else knows who wants to partner with us? But we certainly are interested in exploring it if the community wants us to do that. Now, if this question comes back and 86% of people say, we don't want you to explore a partnership for the district, I think at that point the issue is dead, because people have told us that's not what we want. If 86% of people say, yeah, explore those partnerships, then we'll do just that, and we'll figure what we can make happen. Because it's not a project that the school district can do alone. So I'm not sure how you feel about the swimming pool question as it is written. You can chime in at this time with your thoughts.
I think it's a good stepping stone, because I don't think that right now we're in a position to ask for another 15 million to fund a school pool.
To be quite honest with you, after the building tours last night with Kraus Anderson, LHB, members of our community and members of our school staff, if we had 15 more million, we would have 15 more million deferred maintenance costs. Because as we walked, the cost increased in our heads, and in reality, it's unbelievable, the things that George showed us last night. I mean, when you have this is a true story for those who were there, Dale, up in the ceiling, underneath, ahead of a ceiling tile, there was a tray that you would baste a turkey in, that was in the ceiling tile collecting dripping water. And Josh Ganji was there, and he actually said, are we basting a turkey? And I said, no, that's water. And George said, every green dot that you see has one of those. So as we were walking down the hallway, green dot, green dot, green dot, green dot. There was like 5 or 6 just in the family and consumer ed hallway. That's just one hallway. It was a little eye-opening. You were there, Dale.
Yeah, there's little surprises everywhere, and if you drive by in the street, you're not gonna notice it. You're gonna think, wow, it looks like a nice building, but when you get up close, there's a lot of things, and
A lot.
I mean, we have, what, drip strings, our drip strings, I think they're called, on the outside of the building, you know, a little piece of string to
It's not
let
working.
water leave the wall,
It's not
so,
leaving.
yeah.
So, right now, the deferred maintenance price tag on priority ones is 35 million. There's more that are sitting in deferred maintenance, number 2 and number 3, that are said to be done in 4 to 7 or 7 to 10 years.
Right.
So, we don't have money laying around. We wanna be smart about how we do this, certainly. So we'll continue to engage with those who want a swimming pool. This isn't the end of the line. We want to engage with them and we want to make this happen. If it's something the community really wants, we'll be part of that, but we're gonna need help if that's gonna happen. So,
Sounds good.
all right, the last page is the demographic data. Not really much has been changed here. Again, Aaron and I had a conversation today. We tweaked the do you have children attending a school district Amory school. We just wanted to make it clear, because the way it was written before, it said district school. Well, nearly everyone's got a kid that's in a district school. We want an Amory district school. Some folks have asked, why ask the question, do you live in the school district of Amory? Here's why. Teachers will get this survey, not all of them live here, and open enrolled families will get the survey, and not all of them live here. In fact, those folks, for sure, they don't live here. Their results matter, but when school perceptions desegregates the results, they're gonna weigh more heavily those who actually can vote here. The second thing folks have asked, why does it matter if you're an employee of the school district of Amory? The reason that we asked that question, the metrics that school perceptions uses in order to determine the results of the survey and the validity of the survey is that folks that live and work in a particular place have a more vested interest in what happens there, and they're probably more likely to vote. So the metrics give those folks a higher weight because they spend their days there. And lastly, why does it matter which municipality you live in? If one of the municipalities comes back incredibly low in regards to their response rate or in regards to how they feel about us addressing deferred maintenance, we need to do a better job in providing them information. So we would perhaps go to one of their town meetings and we would go ahead and provide that information. That's why we ask. We don't have an agenda with any particular municipality. We want all of them to have the necessary information to make a smart decision. The rest of the page remains as is, and nothing else has been changed on that page. So, and then that's it, that's the last page. Other questions, comments, thoughts, concerns?
Looks great.
Yeah.
We've seen it a
Agree,
lot of
and I like-
times.
Well, we could ask a lot more questions, but sure, just.
Yeah, then
follow
it just
it up
gets,
and-
yeah, just get right to the
I
point.
think we want it
Yeah.
simple, yeah,
Yeah.
keep it simple, quick
Yeah.
and simple.
So when
This-
is this
We
survey
have
set?
like 30 questions,
set to
people
go out?
get bored and they quit, I mean,
Yeah, the last time it was too long.
yeah, I mean,
I remember filling that out. It was long.
I filled
This
out
one
other
shouldn't take
surveys
long.
before too, not with the school district.
Even if
but
reading every
it's like,
word, you may
okay,
get much
after
past
like the
10,
third
15.
page, I'm like, alright,
I've had enough.
I've had enough,
Yeah.
I just log out. So, these are rules.
So
Simple,
here's the
direct
timeline for
questions.
survey. After this goes back to school perceptions tomorrow morning, they send it to their editor, which takes a day or two. Then after that, they send it to a local printer, one of our local printers. We already have an arrangement set up. And at that point, they do the printing and it lands in mailboxes, approximately October 2021, somewhere around there. And at that point, they have until November 8th to weigh in with their answers. We get the results on the 9th, and you'll see the results as fast as I get them. I'll send them to you, and then we are meeting here and discussing it on the 15th, then the community on the 18th, and we'll see where we stand. We'll be a lot more knowledgeable at the end of November than we are right now in regards to how our community feels, which is the goal. We've said from the beginning, we're not making this decision in isolation, and we're not, by no means. So we would need a motion to approve the survey as drafted with the proposed changes, and then we would ship it out tomorrow.
So moved.
Aaron, is there a second?
Yes, second.
All right, HR, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. And we have no items for our closed session, so
That's it.
we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Shar, second.
Second.
Dale, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. We're done.